Welcome to Talk to Me. I'm your host, Brenda Warren. I am the solutionist. I am a voice for the voiceless. I help people turn their mess or their mission into a message for the masses. And today we are going to have a conversation that will maybe interest some, maybe madden a few, and just not matter to others. But I am here today with a very special woman, Miss Mirenda Canady. And we are going to be talking today about two women, two choices. Why two women, two choices? Because we are both women of God. We both are currently married. Only one of us is about to be divorced, and the other one chose to stay. So today we're going to talk about that difference and what made the difference. We're going to talk about Miranda's book, and it's called, I'm going to read this because I want to get it correct. Why should you stay married? The 7 reasons that will permanently change your mindset on marriage. We're going to talk about her nonprofit, the Abigail Movement, and we're going to be talking about marriage in general, why divorce, why not divorce, and why two women with two choices made two different decisions. Miranda, welcome
Wow.
to Talk to Me.
Wow. I love it. I want to listen to this podcast. Thank you so much, Brenda. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I'm super excited and so happy to be here.
I want to start with, first of all, we are both married. I've been married for 23 years, but I'm currently pending a divorce. How long have you been married?
I've been married since 1995. So that's, what is that, 26? I don't know. It's all a blur. It's all a blur.
So I think that's 26 years. So we're about the same amount of time. We both have children. I have one, Alex. My reason. And how many children do you have?
I have three, and this is an even year for us. So they're
Hmm.
14, 16, and 18. And my 14-year-old is a special needs girl. She is the only person in the house who I like most of the time because she's super sweet. She's super
Okay.
sweet.
Okay. And the other thing, we both are entrepreneurs. You have your nonprofit. I have the solutionist and my talk show, Talk to Me, and I'm an accountability coach. So we're both women that are doing things. And like I said, we're both women of faith. And
Yes.
for similar reasons, we both felt that we had difficult marriages to men that were stuck in what we both believe are prideful situations. But you chose to stay, and I chose to leave. And we're going to talk about the differences in those choices because it's a conversation that's not often had. I personally got tired of living like I was a roommate and like that I wasn't being loved the way God said I was intended to be loved. So I chose after 23 years of marriage to walk away, and my divorce should be finalized this year. Where on the other hand, you wrote a book and you also chose to stay. So we're going to stick with that because mine is kind of like already in the final stages. But for you, you're still in it. And as a woman of
Yes.
God, you used Abigail. And I'm doing a series on Clubhouse with Dr. Barbara Franklin, Miss B. Frank herself, on the women of the Bible. So I'm intrigued about your thought process on your situation and how you used Abigail as your model to be able to stay in your marriage, even though you didn't feel it was what you believed was originally intended. How did you change your mindset on that fact?
Yes. Yes. I want to share with you that I want to be a part of that conversation. I love studying the women of the Bible, and I would love to join you in that room. I just want to make sure I make that
I'll
clear.
make sure you get all the information. We do that clubhouse room every Saturday. There's a different group of women, and every other Saturday, Dr. Barbara Franklin and I do the Women of the Bible series. So we are constantly on Clubhouse. It's at 10:45 on Saturdays, and there's always something going on in the woman to woman room, a room run by that is founded by Wisdom Speaks. And we have some amazing conversations about women in the Bible on Saturday mornings at 10:45 a.m. on
Is that
Clubhouse.
this Saturday or next Saturday?
It's as of the taping this Saturday.
Okay, gotcha. Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you. Wonderful. Yes. So, Abigail, uh, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? Was it
I
about,
was saying, how did you decide to use Abigail as your basically your role model to stay in a marriage that you didn't feel was everything that you thought it should be?
yes. Well, Abigail came to me after I had decided to stay. My husband, um, I filed for divorce. My husband appealed to me to stay, and he didn't appeal to me for love. He appealed to me by bringing up our past,
Mhm.
how when his parents got divorced, he went from living in Missouri in a home with his parents to living in his grandmother's house and sharing a bedroom with a cousin, a female cousin, whose parents had recently gotten divorced too.
Mhm.
And both of those women went back home to Louisiana and moved back home and lived with their mother for a period of time before they went out on their own. And he also reminded me of my story, when my parents got divorced, and how I went from living in a home to feeling like all my needs were being met, to living in an apartment feeling like I had to wait on certain things. Like, for example, I would say, distinctly remember saying, "We have cereal, but no milk. Can we
Mhm.
get some milk?" And she said, "Wait, we buy groceries on, maybe she said Saturday. We buy
Mhm.
groceries on Saturday."
Mhm.
And I'm assuming payday was on Friday. Like, we buy groceries on Saturday and eat something else, eat it dry or eat something else. And even as a kid, I was like, that's, I never had this problem before. Or getting,
Mhm.
getting what I needed. And so, and I shared that with him when we were single, and we had this conversation about divorce
Mhm.
prior to getting married. And so I think we were even, it seemed like an innocent enough conversation, but I think we were both kind of feeling each other out in terms of like, of your position on divorce. We shared these
Mhm.
stories and agreed that if we got married, we would stay married.
Yeah.
And so that's how the conversation came about. And I just felt I resented him. I stopped, of course, after a story like that. I mean, what can you do? We have 3 kids, one of which is special needs, and she loves her father fiercely.
Mhm.
So I could see her whipping me every day, asking me about him. Where is he? When are we going to
Mhm.
see him? So I chose to stay, but I resented him for that because he didn't appeal to love.
So when you find yourself, although he appealed and you stopped the divorce proceedings, did you go then seek counseling?
Well, I suggested, like, we need help. Like, we need help. If you want me to stay, this thing has got to look something similar to what we know a marriage to look like.
Mhm.
Because he and I are both believers. Even when we were dating, and I would come from Louisiana to to Dallas to spend some time with my boyfriend, because
Mhm.
in school in Louisiana. And so I would come and spend time with him. He would always, no matter how late we stayed up or stayed out partying and drinking, he would always make me get up and go to church. And
Mhm.
that was something I respected him as a single woman, dating a guy, someone who would let party with me all night and then make me get up and go to church in the morning. So I had a perspective of him as a godly man.
Mhm.
But once we got married and I saw that it was more legalism. Like, this is what we do. On Sunday mornings, we go to church. And
Mhm.
and and what I heard, I wanted to apply. And I don't know, like, I'm like, you drug me here, and he wasn't willing to apply anything that he heard. And I know that he respects our pastor, but but our pastor gives him instructions, and he gives me instructions on
Mhm.
marriage. I follow those instructions, and my husband, on the other hand, he does not. It's more of an act. And so I said we needed help, that we should go to the church and we should get counseling. And he was like, well, you have the problem, you should go.
That sounds familiar.
And that was so painful. That was just painful. I'm like, a marriage is two people becoming one.
Mhm.
And if you have one person not interested in becoming one, how is this even a marriage? That's what I said to the Lord. It's like, how is this even a marriage? So I was depressed, and I stayed in bed, and I did everything in bed. I watched TV in bed, I ate in bed, and I started journaling in bed. And it was like, dear God. And I just tell the Lord everything that was wrong, everything that I was unhappy about. And I would say, like, you said that marriage looks like this. You said that he should love me like your son, Jesus the Christ, loved the church. You said, and then I'd be like, but look, he's not doing any of these things.
I
And
said the same thing, and I was frustrated because I'm reading my Bible, I'm going to church, and I want to be clear for the women that may hear this. We both are married to men of God, men that say they love God,
yes,
and we know that we are women of faith.
yes,
And then we are seeing and reading in the scripture where it says this is the life that God wanted for us, but we're not seeing that in our homes.
yes. And
And so when you don't see that in your home, your choice was to, like I journaled as well, only my decision after several attempts to make uh, my husband see my sadness, my depression, my discomfort, and trying to get him to go to counseling. We did go to counseling, but counseling did not work. We were counseled by the pastor. We went to secular counselors. We went to a Christian counselor, but nothing in my marriage changed. And I finally made the decision to leave. And for me, I really truly believe that was the best decision for me. However, you chose to stay. And I want to talk about what made you stay and how does your book and your reading on Abigail play into that?
yes, so after journaling, one day I just started reading it. I started reading all the letters that I wrote to God, the list of all the things that were supposed to be, like, the promises that God gave us in the Bible, and what was actually happening in my marriage. I started reading all those things, and I just believe it was the Holy Spirit that said, "You're not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the only one struggling with marriage. I mean, and that's clear in the statistics that more than half of us um, get divorced. And not only that, the majority of the filings for divorce are done by women.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's what I did. I rewrote my journal in the form of a book as a
Okay.
way to as a way to encourage women to stay married. And that was therapeutic for me. That was
Mm-hmm.
such a blessing for me. And Abigail came about in like the same way. I I journal, and then I have a tendency to go back. I
Okay.
like going back and reading because it makes me see how far I've come
Mm-hmm.
in my mindset about many things, and certainly about marriage. And I in this particular journal, there was um, there was a verse about Abigail. So I went back and I read um, 1 Samuel 25,
Mm-hmm.
and I gained so much respect for this woman because she had the ability to be married to a foolish man who was very wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
but he was foolish because he didn't know how to treat his wife.
Mm-hmm.
She had the ability to be married to him. And once he died, and she got a proposal for David. Now, this is David when he was a criminal, when he was a wanted man running from King Saul. She
Mm-hmm.
accepted his marriage proposal. She's described in the Bible as being beautiful and intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to believe that, like in my flesh, I'm like, girl, you were free. Why would you marry David? He has a terrible temper and he's a womanizer. It's like, why would you do that? But Abigail is described as being beautiful and intelligent. So this was a wise decision. So
Mm-hmm.
she went from living in a beautiful home, and she took her 5 handmaids, which was a lot. And that speaks volumes to the amount of wealth that her
Mm-hmm.
first husband had. So she took her 5 handmaids, her 5 closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
She took them with her to marry David, who already had a wife, and to live with him in a tent running from Saul, knowing, believing God, the promise of God that he would one day become king of Israel. And we know that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had got an opportunity to live in a palace.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wonder if she considered, if I have a son for him, my son could go on to be
Mm-hmm.
king. And so, yeah, so that's why um, that's why I named my nonprofit organization for her, because of her ability to stay married in two very different situations. Like some
Mm-hmm.
of us are married to foolish men, and some of us may be married to kings, um,
Mm-hmm.
God, men who are really godly men, and they walk out what they read. But most of us are married to men that fall somewhere in the middle, and my husband certainly falls somewhere in the middle. But my marriage could not be all about my husband. So I came up with 7 ways to stay married.
And so while you were doing that, because one of the things I used to tell myself for 23 years was that his behavior wasn't my behavior wasn't predicated on his behavior. So regardless of how my husband reacted, regardless of how my husband treated me, I continued to be faithful and conduct myself in a way that I believe was pleasing to God. But there
Amen.
was a point where I hit what I refer to as my social limit. And I was no longer able to, because of my own mental and physical health,
Mm.
stay in this marriage that, by all accounts, for me, was draining the very life out of me. I did not feel safe. I did not feel
Mm.
secure. I was not happy by any stretch of imagination. I was overweight, overwhelmed, disrespected, and felt unloved. And when I
Yeah.
got to a point where I could no longer pray the pain away,
Mm.
and I was sick and
Mm.
tired of being sick and tired, and if
Mm.
I heard one more well meaning sister throw a scripture at me,
Mm.
I
Mm.
was going to throw a Holy Ghost fit that I said, Dear God, I can't do this anymore. I really can't.
Yes.
And I prayed and I walked away. Now, with
Amen.
all that said you've decided that regardless of what's going on, you've chosen to stay. What in those 7 steps that you figured out allows you to maintain in a marriage that, by your own admission, is not what you say uh, is what you believe you deserve? And how? And then we'll go to the next question after that. What do those 7 steps do to help you maintain your marriage?
Yes. Okay. So I want to be clear that um, I'm certainly not encouraging a woman to stay in an abusive situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not encouraging that at all. I'm not encouraging a woman to stay in a situation where the man is being adulterous or where the man is abandoned her. So those are the 3 things that are outlined in the Bible: abuse, abandonment, and adultery. Our
Mm-hmm.
Father is so good. He always provides a way out. He provides a mean for escape. And I am so sorry, Brenda, that your husband was abusive to you. You are a child of the Most High God. You're an apple of His eye, and so I'm just God bless you for having the wisdom um, to leave, the wisdom and the
And
strength
I
to
want
leave.
to say my husband was never physically abusive to me, because when you say that, I want to be clear that he never laid a hand on me, but emotionally, my husband was never there. He was just not um, able to connect with me in that way ever. And so I spent 23 years with a person that was not able to connect with me for whatever reason. And it's something that they will have to work through in their next relationship. But I've told a lot of people over the years, what I had to come to understand was that abuse is not always someone putting their hands on you.
Right, exactly. Yes, and even the most painful, the most hurtful are those mental and emotional ways that um, women can be abused, because they make you question your own sanity. They make you
Mhm.
question yourself and who you are, and your value and your self-worth. So yes, those there are many forms of abuse, absolutely, and physical abuse is just
Mhm.
one of many. And um, and it just reminds me of a time, like washing dishes is not a chore that I enjoy doing.
Mhm.
So I would combine that with something that I liked. Maybe I'd watch a show and watch dishes. And one particular time, I was listening to worship music, washing the dishes. And so I had the music turned up loud. I'm singing along, washing the dishes. And my
Mhm.
husband says to me, pick a note.
Mhm.
And just that one little sentence hurt me so bad, because I'm already kind of like wounded, right? I'm walking
Mhm.
around with these open sores because of years of little comments, just like that, just jabbing away at me. And so I stopped the music and I said to him, "My worship isn't unto you.
Mhm.
It's unto the Lord. And
Mhm.
my Father created me, and I think he gave the notes that he wanted me to use all the notes, sing every note in this one worship song. I'm believing that he did because he is the creator. Everything he created is good,
Mhm.
and I think he likes it, or otherwise
Mhm.
he wouldn't have done it. So I am going to bless the Lord using all the notes.
Mhm.
I told him that. And I turned my music back up and I sang louder and intentionally even more off key because it wasn't it wasn't, and so I'm telling you this story to say I understand. And and even to this day, I do not like the power that he has to say just two or three words and hurt me or make me happy even. Like you know I I and I don't like his power to do that simply because of how frivolous he is with it, how he doesn't honor it, how he doesn't protect it, how he doesn't guard his words, he doesn't guard the things he says to me. He just, whatever pops in his mind, he says it. And I have learned to just correct him and tell him the truth that, this is how God created me. This is who I am. God was intentional. I'm not a mistake. I just whatever he says, I make sure I say something back. And when I do, it's not that what he says, I don't think, like, over the years, I don't think that what he says to me has the same power. I think that in studying the scriptures and learning who I am in Christ and speaking those things out when he has something negative like that to say about me, it has given me strength, and and it just feels good. It really feels good. So the Lord has just given me the ability to take something negative that he does and glorify God in it, or remind myself and him, remind us both of something that the Lord promised. And so, yeah, so um, that's just one of my survival modes that I believe has just been so beneficial, because we I should say I need to remind myself constantly about who I am in God and the promises that I have in God.
And see, when you say that, I felt I could say the same thing again: two women, two choices. And because I reminded myself who I am and whose I am, it was that gave me the ability to walk away, because
Yeah.
I felt that I deserved to be treated a certain way and that I had a right to be loved and adored. And
Amen.
I came to a conclusion that in my case, my husband wasn't capable of
Mm,
loving me past where he was. He didn't
mm,
have the capacity. And then I had to make a decision about what I was willing to accept. And I had hit a place where I was no longer willing to accept the limited amount of love that he was able to provide for me. And I wasn't willing to accept being ignored in a marriage and feeling like I was the only one in the marriage
right.
doing any of the work. And so now you've written your book and you've come up with 7 steps.
Mm.
And how have those 7 steps helped you maintain the marriage that you currently are in?
Yes. So I wouldn't call them steps. They're more like reasons.
Okay.
Yes, they're the 7 reasons that will permanently change your mindset on marriage. You know, you
Okay.
have to make like an over the top claim,
Mm-hmm.
and so yes, and so they're available for you to go to,
Mm-hmm.
and you read my story, and I
Mm-hmm.
provide writing prompts for you to just write your story, write how you
Okay.
feel. Like for one of the reasons is staying married for my children, and I shared with you the story of what happened from with my divorce, how my life changed, and of course what happened
Mm-hmm.
with my when my husband's parents divorced, what happened um, in his life, how his life changed.
Right.
And so a lot of times my reason for staying has nothing to do with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 7 reasons that I choose to stay married, one of them is about him.
Mm-hmm.
The rest are about other things, like children, and like for God. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so these are the reasons that I use to help me stay married when I can't think of a reason to stay on my own. And that happens. That happens. Just like, why am I here?
Right.
This what and yeah, I ask myself that, and then I grab my journal, find a reason, and write about it.
I'm right about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and God is so faithful. The very thing that I wanted to be separated from permanently, because I
Mm-hmm.
had no intention of ever giving a man the power to hurt me with his words, like this
Mm-hmm.
man has the power to do. I was like, I will
Mm-hmm.
never get married again. I will marry the Lord. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I said. It's like, I'm going to be married to the Lord. I will serve him. And so I had my whole singleness plan. And the Lord gave me this ministry. He gave me the Abigail Movement. He gave me the um the book uh,
Mm-hmm.
through my journaling. And so all these things now make me happy. All
Okay.
these things make my life rich. Like talking to women like you who have chose to divorce, and then other women who are on the fence. They're not sure
Mm-hmm.
what to do. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to say here,
Mm-hmm.
you have 2 choices.
Yeah.
Weigh them both
Weigh them
before
both.
weigh them both before you make your decision. Purchase
Right.
this book, do some writing, take your time. If you're not in any physical danger, and if it's at all possible, buy the book and take your time in making that decision, because it's a major decision, because it's not just 2 people being separated. It's families, it's friends. It's like you never know how many people are invested in your marriage working, and how many people are devastated when it doesn't. And I learned that myself when some friends of ours, we had no idea they were having um, problems beyond what we all have, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have problems in marriage, but we didn't know that their issues were to the extent that they were considering divorce. So when they did, we were shocked. And I know I was hurt, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
why didn't you reach out to me?
Right.
But
Right.
they didn't. And that's another thing. It shouldn't be secret, like, it should be no secrets. It's a
No.
blessing to be transparent, to be like, this is what's going on. This is what's happening with me. Can you relate to me? Let's have a discussion about it. Because in talking and finding like-minded women, there is like a certain level of comfort in
Mm-hmm.
that I found. So yes, now marriage is my ministry. It's what I do. And that is just the providence of God. And I just have to laugh about that. Like, wow, like how did I even get here?
And as you say that, it's for me, as I help women prepare to stay married or prepare to get married, I think there are certain things that we agree on. That number one, you should take your time. There, we are two women with two choices. We've made
Yes,
definitely different choices,
yes,
but I will agree with you this, that if you can stay married, I would choose stay married. Why?
yes,
Because it's not just about you. There are often kids,
yes,
finances, there are other people, family members, and community that
yes,
will be affected by your choice. Additionally, there is your faith and your faith walk with Christ. How is that and how will that be affected when you make your decision? And to me, there is no right or wrong. It is just the choice that you choose to make, because I'm often telling people the choices you make today will be the reality you choose, uh, the reality you live tomorrow. Choose
yes,
wisely,
yes.
because every choice has a consequence. You know,
Absolutely.
when I chose to walk away from my 24-year marriage, what that choice did for me was it was a loss of community. There was a breaking up of the home, a dividing of finances.
Yes.
But there was also positives for me. I lost 65 pounds. I became totally debt free. I started a new life and became an entrepreneur. Like you, I wrote a book. You know,
Yes.
I now, like you, I support women all over the globe in being able to have better marriages and better lives. So, although we made different choices, we have similar outcomes. So, I
Yes.
say that to tell women whatever choice you decide to make, remember, it's your marriage, it's your choice. And we're going to be talking about that, Miranda and I, tomorrow on Clubhouse, if you see this before then. If not, you know, I just hope that you will know that whatever choice you decide to make it a choice you can live with.
Absolutely.
Make it a choice
Absolutely.
you can live with.
And it's an ongoing discussion, isn't it? It's not just a one room on Clubhouse story. It's something that has to be talked about over and over again, because there's so many women in so many different situations, and they need to be encouraged and supported.
Yeah, absolutely. Miranda, I know you have the Abigail movement, and how has making the decision to stay in your marriage, despite the challenges, starting the nonprofit and writing the book helped you live your best life now?
You know, just getting involved in it, like being in it. So my marriage is is unto God, and I really had to take my husband out of the equation. I had to
Mhm.
take him out of the equation and just serve women like me through the nonprofit organization, through writing the book. So, so my marriage is about serving, right? And in this case, yes, I do serve my husband, but even more than him, it's about serving these women.
Mhm.
And to me, that is amazing. I would have never thought of this on my own. I had a whole singleness plan that I was really, truly looking forward to.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
now, what marriage means to me is my nonprofit organization, the Abigail Movement. That's what marriage is. And just building this community of women who support each other, no matter your choice,
Mhm.
whether you choose to stay or you choose to divorce. But just because no decision is better than the other, I want to be clear about that. But just to walk alongside each other and encouraging each other. And in doing that, I think we together we can live our best lives, because marriage is one aspect of the whole big beautiful picture. And I just want to encourage women to look at the big picture of your life and not just on that one thing that's not quite how you would want it to be.
Well, thank you, Miranda, for sharing your story as we talk about two women, two choices. And I hope you'll stand by while I take the time to thank a veteran. You know, every time this is the part of the show where I say, if you are ready to thank a veteran and never knew how, I'm going to give you the opportunity. I want you to go to the address above my head at www.nevcc.org/projects and join the Basket Brigade. That's where you'll find 12 writing prompts, one for each month of the year. You can write a word, a sentence, a paragraph, a whole story, and tell a veteran thank you. If you do that, Lisa Deshawn, the executive director of the New England Veterans Chamber of Commerce, and her staff will take your thank yous along with all the others that have been presented and create a beautifully illustrated book that will be placed in the basket full of goodies that will be presented to some lucky veterans on January 1st, 2022. So if you're ready to thank a veteran, go to www.nevcc.org/projects and tell a veteran thank you. It's never too late to say thank you. I want to remind everyone that today, as Miranda and I talked about marriage, we are two different women with two different choices. And I'd like to tell you how you can tap into those choices. I want you to remember that it always starts with transformation of your mindset. First, you have to decide what marriage looks like to you. Remember, it's your marriage, it's your choice. Then make an announcement that either you're going to stay married or you're going to let it go. Then get some accountability, y'all, because that's how you can make sure that whatever you decide, you stay on the right path. Then I want you to prepare yourself, because if you decide you're going to stay, then prepare yourself to love like there is no heartbreak and give it your all and trust God to bring you through. If you're prepared to leave, I want you to get your finances in order, get your mind right, and be prepared for what that entails. Then I want you to imagine what your life is going to look like, whether you stay or go. If you stay, I want you to imagine, what does that look like to you? If you go, what's it going to look like to you? Use your imagination and imagine. Dream big, then dream bigger than that. Then whatever choice you make, I want you to nurture that choice. Be clear and confident that if I stayed, I stayed because it's my choice. If I leave, I left because it's my choice. Two women, two choices, neither one right, neither one wrong, but it is a choice. So I'd like to remind each and every one of you that are watching, the choices you make today will truly be the reality you live tomorrow. So choose wisely. Be blessed. Thanks, Miranda, for coming to talk to me.
Thank you so much, Brenda. It was a blessing for sure.